I don't know the mention.
I do. Want to get some more business in the pipeline? I think you probably do. I think everybody probably does right now.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, well, try using some niche products like non-QM, and you can do that with proven scripts and proven strategies on the Angel Oak webinar that's coming up on October 25th. Very, very cool webinar. We've been doing it now like over and over again because everybody loves it so much, and you walk away from that thing with everything you need to go out there and generate some new business. Where to find it, what to say, what to do next. What more could you ask for?
I don't know why anybody wouldn't do it. Seriously. I mean, what do you have to lose?
Nothing.
I mean,
you have everything to gain.
Right. There's no downside. There's none. Do it. Click this banner right over there, or on your mobile device. Scroll all the way down. Okay, so Frank,
yeah.
I saw this story a couple of weeks ago, and I passed on it because it really has no intrinsic value to a salesperson, real estate agent, or loan officer.
So it's perfect for our show.
But it is industry noteworthy.
Okay.
So I don't call this a mail it in show because we as salespeople are also interested in curiosities and what some would, in this case, deem wildly inappropriate.
Okay.
Particularly by today's standards of ultra correctness, where anything anyone says surely will ruffle the feathers of someone just waiting to be offended. As a result, it's become hard for me to distinguish between what in life is really offensive.
What a great honor to be able to introduce for the first time ever anywhere the 45th President of the United States of America.
Versus what is not.
Okay.
What some people find offensive, for example, I find funny.
I meant to get your phone.
Or honest. Or even pragmatic or insightful. Or even, yes, offensive.
Okay.
But not always offensive.
All right,
So, you tell me, is this the latest in a year of questionable appointments, or is this just the clans of those easily offended beating their war drums once again? Are you ready for the story? Here it goes.
CFPB Director Mick Mulvaney, who has done pretty much... That's not right. Mick Mulvaney, who's done pretty much nothing of note since taking over as director of the CFPB, he has just appointed Eric Blankenstein to oversee the Bureau's fair lending.
Fair lending.
Right. Fair lending work.
Right.
In case you didn't know.
Fair lending is defined as the Fair Housing Act, FHA, and Equal Credit Opportunity Act, ECOA, protect consumers by prohibiting unfair and discriminatory practices. Right?
Right. Okay, so new CFPB appointee Eric Blankenstein, who heads up fair lending, has said a few controversial things, and now civil rights groups are not only calling for his head, but also for Director Mulvaney's head, and of course everyone else up the political ladder.
All the way to the top. Okay, so should he, Blankenstein, or they be canned for these statements, which, by the way, were actually published, so we know he said them, and this was done while he was at the University of Virginia.
Okay.
Ready? Here we go. What's the first infringement, Frank?
Alrighty, sit down everybody. Here we go. Let's settle in and take it all in. Blankenstein implied that calling someone the N-word didn't make them a racist, but rather made them an a-hole.
Okay, and he said the N-word and a-hole. So, does this make a person racist? Because what he's saying is that somebody could say a word, but you don't know what the intent behind the word is.
Right.
You could actually say what would be a disparaging, racist word, but you may not have those feelings backing those words up, depending on who it's coming from and what the context is. Frank?
Okay, next, here we go. Blankenstein suggested that because many hate crimes are hoaxes, they should not necessarily be governed under the University of Virginia's strict honor system until a hood-wearing KKK member is caught.
He sure does know how to say things that are going to piss people off.
Boy, he sure does.
Okay, so what he's talking about is the University of Virginia was going to increase the scope of what was a hate crime. And a hate crime was going to be included where the first accusation would lead to an expulsion. And he felt that that was not necessarily the right move for the University of Virginia. Context, Frank, keep going.
Okay, here we go. Let's continue down the path. Blankenstein argued that hate crimes are just crimes, asking, does it matter that someone got beat up because they were black?
Okay, so the other question is, does it matter if somebody got beat up because they were white or because they were Asian? Is that act of beating somebody up, should that not then be colorblind because it is in and of itself a hateful act from one human being to another regardless of that person's race or ethnicity? That's what he's saying. Frank?
All right, let's keep going. Blankenstein thinks abortions and abandoning children in dumpsters are the same thing.
I'm just a prom night dumpster baby. I got no mom or dad.
You can see why he's pissing everybody off. I don't even want to get into it. Frank, keep going.
Blankenstein disparaged the intelligence of the average voter, saying that they voted based on image.
I totally agree. Sorry. I just do.
I think a lot of people do that.
I do. Okay.
Yeah.
So there you have it. This is the newly appointed, hand-picked head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's fair housing policies. Yeah, fair housing. So what do you think? I gotta tell you, he's certainly divisive, and in this case, for good reason. We don't have to ask if he said this stuff because he wrote it down and had it published. Now, these are his public opinions where he has certainly been judged for making these statements. Yes, it's free speech and he has the right to say these things, but there is no need for due process because there isn't a trial. It's his opinion, and his appointment should be scrutinized by all of our opinions. It should be. Many of those say that his past words disqualify him for such an appointment, and that Acting Director Mulvaney should also face the chopping block for making the appointment in the first place.
Others say his statements are taken out of context, and those very statements are being manipulated to influence your opinions. The good old political struggle at every level that ultimately pits neighbor against neighbor.
My world, this is not what we want.
We will face challenges.
There's so much
We will
potential
confront hardships, but we will get the job
for
done.
beauty and for
Every 4 years,
devastation.
Which we're seeing more and more frequently these days. Yet other people are going to say, should a person actually be judged, you've heard this one before, by what they did or said 30 years ago while at college? I mean, I guess it depends on what your political persuasion is now, doesn't it? Because Democrats will say, fire this guy, and Republicans will say, well, what about Weather Underground leader Bill Ayers? And well, Republicans are going to say, keep this guy. And Democrats are going to say, well, what about Merrick Garland?
I think we've gotten to a place where any and everything we've ever done is now up for public debate. And living in the digital age where everything is captured is good for business. I just say, before we get to criticizing other people's words and actions from any time in their life, watch out. That judgmental eye may one day fall on you. And then what?
Fair housing, this is a tough appointment though with the stuff he said. I've just got to think you could find somebody who probably didn't publish things that we know by today's standards are going to be so darn divisive.
Well, we'd like your opinions on it. Let us know in the comments down below. As always, do us a favor, forward, share, and subscribe. We'll catch you later here at the National Real Estate Post.
Later.